Welcome, everybody. John Zager. How is everyone? I hope well. Let's see, it's 7:43 in the evening here in the eastern slope of Colorado. Temperature is 83. I am facing south, but you're correct. I'm going to be going east. Excuse me. I'm just leaving the house, and I'm going to run out to the new construction and take a quick peek. And it's still too hot to be in the house anyway, so I usually hang around outside or whatever. There's some clouds out, heavy overcast, I guess, to the south. Not much to the north. There's some intermittent clouds up here to the north, but, well, I guess there's quite a bit out here to the west. They don't look like they have any rain or water in them, you know what I mean? I wish they did. Even something just to cool the temperature down. Last night it was well after midnight before it cooled off. It was actually closer to 2. So, I don't know, I'm looking out here, there's overcast over the foothills, almost like there could be moisture in there. But, who knows? It'll be another late night before you get to bed with this temperature thing. It's a beautiful day. Has been a beautiful day here in Colorado. I mean, it's hot, sure, of course, it's very hot. And it's not fun. And it's almost like living in the desert. We have just a tad bit more humidity than the desert does. Not much. But we're probably in, I don't know, maybe the 30% sometimes humidity. There's a little bit of traffic tonight, and I live out in the country, by the way. But there's a little bit of traffic tonight. I don't know. It seems like it's a Friday night, but it's Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, I've been busy the last couple days just catching up on research projects, neuroscience research projects, and I ran into 3 or 4 really good ones. I guess I wanted to talk about one in particular. So here's kind of the spin on it. Here's how it goes. We see people out there in the world in our everyday activities, and they're doing things based on circumstances, number one, that happen to them, and their value systems and their belief systems. That's pretty fair to say. So I'm just going to use some of the examples that they used in the research project. So, for instance, they talked about a lady who was, and they did I forget how many they had, 1,400 or 1,500 people in their research that they interviewed and spent time with and processed and talked and evaluated and asked questions and did research, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, so there was one lady that had an abortion. And the group was broke into, basically a couple different groups, right? The first group was pretty supportive of her. You know, tragic situation. Situation was such that it was not a pretty deal, and felt bad for the lady, and there's some tractors coming down the road here, so I have to kind of be careful. But the group basically was trying to figure out how to support her. Right? Now, here's how it spun out. This is kind of interesting. Part of the group wanted to support her based on their personal values regarding having an abortion. And under, of course, there's various situations as well. But they kept trying to give her, how would you say it? In the research, they're pretty blunt and they're just kind of straight up with the whole thing. But they were trying to give her every leeway they could with her having made that decision to have an abortion, because their value system was such, and I guess in line with and similar to, hers. And so they came up with things that were occurring to her to make allowances for her decision. That's pretty clear. So what we come up with in part of this research is that people will have a similar value system or judgment or view or belief system as the identified person with the issue. And they'll make some excuses, such from environment to situation to feelings, emotions, in favor of her to support her decision making. Make sense? Makes sense. The other group, on the other hand, were the opposite of that. Okay? Their deal was this. Abortion's not a good deal. Abortion is something that should not occur. And of course, there's that little, I'm not going to get into all the politics and the political and the religious and everything, but, there are certain situations that might come up where people would need to, out of medical necessity, have an abortion. But we're not talking about that in the second group. The second group is basically just saying, no, that's not good. That's not right. That's not supposed to be that way. Bad, bad, bad. Bad girl, bad person. Right? And so the research people went on to interview these people, like they interviewed the first group. They interviewed the second group. And they started being inquisitive as to, what made you decide to, take such a strong stand against her decision to have an abortion. And it came down to not that the situation called for it or that it was serious in a medical standpoint, or not because of the situation and how it occurred and came up. Wasn't anything like that. As they kept probing them, they eventually, this entire group, majority anyway, just said, these are my values. And I'm judging her based on my values not hers. I thought that was kind of interesting. The takeaway, the point of the research was that people perceive other people based on your own individual values and belief systems. You will, excuse me, you will hear when you're out in your day, you'll hear people, being real friendly towards another person and getting along really well and making friendship and, all kinds of nice things happening. Because they identify with that individual based on their belief systems and their values. So where they grew up, they're adults from third trimester to age 7, was real similar to the individual that they're, having an interaction and maybe lunch or whatever it happens to be, building a friendship. And we tend to not pick people in opposing views, values in particular, and beliefs. And here's the example that the research project used to prove that. Boy, this is really nice, all this new construction and in the evening when it's so late and stuff. And it's nice and quiet over here. But so the way they kind of talked in their research project and was just real simple stuff. Let's use the example of politics. And if you're, I don't know, it doesn't matter to me. If you're a Democrat, you don't hang out with conservative people. And what they did is, of course, they took individuals from both political parties, and regardless of whether their viewpoint politically was soft, moderate, or pretty solid and hard, they stuck with people that were also Democrat, liberal kind of thinkers. And the conservatives, this was really interesting when they got to this part. The conservatives were not that rigid and were willing to have interaction. And, oh boy, they got the garage doors on. Boy, those are nice. They're all wood. Whew. Boy, are those pretty. With the wood shingle sides. Yeah, I like that. So the conservative people were willing to have friends that were more liberal thinkers. And they didn't have to be conservative. Back to the whole point. The point is that we interact with people based on our values and our belief systems. And we pick people out based on our value systems and belief systems. And we have as our friends the same, and we interact with the same. And when we see somebody in opposing view and beliefs, like the abortion, as much as we say that doesn't matter, this is the critical point, everybody, pay attention. As much as we say that doesn't matter, when we have conversation with people and we're trying to tell them how nice we are and just, we're willing to bend and talk and be around everybody, we really are not. That's the key part. I hope you guys heard that. I hope you guys caught that. So as much as we all want to say we're willing to be friends with, interact with, have dialogue with, go have dinner, hang out with, all kinds of different people from all different walks of life. The research, in this particular research, said that's not true. We base all that off of our own values and belief system. Boy, these houses, I tell you what, you can see through to the lake on the new construction. And the west side all just has all glass on all these western homes. And it's just fabulous because the sun is just almost down and it's just everything's orange out there. So it really is attractive. This neighborhood is very attractive. I'm pretty happy with it. So in honesty, everyone, in honesty, I'm sure you're all not going to call me up and say, well, I agree with you, John. That's probably true. People may make claims that aren't necessarily accurate about them. And that's what the research is saying. So when you interact with somebody tomorrow, the next day or the day after, and they're saying about what a wonderful set of viewpoints they have, their viewpoints are just as in line with their beliefs and values, and that's it. And there isn't a whole lot of budge. People might indicate or want you to believe they have a fair amount of budge in the way they view people and whatnot, but the research indicates not. I thought that's interesting. So I was just thinking, and I'll just put a tail end to this, a telomere at the end of the chromosome, so to speak. But so my little tidbit is that in my interacting, and I think this has something to do with, no, I don't think it does. I know it does. In my research, when I do my podcasts, right, I'm fairly honest. I am really honest. Honest to the point that a lot of people may not like the research that I do. It's just research. It's the way it turns out. It's not the way I turn it out. I can't make people that I'm doing research on do this, that, or the other thing. But I think people view my little podcast, daily podcasts, based on their values and belief systems, which are probably different than what I present. Here's the last part. I won't confuse you guys anymore. When I do podcasts or blogs about positive, happy, love, compassion, joy, friendship, things of that nature that are soft and humane and caring and sensitive. And I've checked this out. I get 25% higher audience of listeners and readers. That's pretty close. It's about 25% more. And when I do podcasts or blogs on, things that are just human nature, not everybody's a good person out there. But anyway, when I do that kind of stuff, I get 25% less. And I watch that stuff really well. And sometimes I'll throw in one of those little happy, podcasts just to see what happens the next day. And sure enough, it comes out really higher audience. So anyway, thought you guys would like to know that. So the research was a good little research thing. It's exactly what I believed anyway. And there's probably going to be an audience out there listening to me right now that don't like to hear that, because they're saying one thing and acting a different way, period. So, and then there's some that are going to say, yeah, absolutely, I agree with you. People are not always on the up and up about, their feelings and emotions and things of that nature. Hey, listen, you guys, I didn't write the gentleman's name down, but we got some new listeners. I got a couple new listeners. They, Spreaker, which is the app that I use to do my podcast, notifies me when I get a new listener. That's very important to me, you guys, because they don't let you do this stuff if you don't have an audience. And, my stuff is really cool stuff, but not everybody's going to see the neuroscience, in the introduction and understand it, that it can be very, very cool stuff. So we got a couple more. I'm going to get their names, and tomorrow, I guess, is what I'll do. I'll introduce a couple new people to you, and I'm very grateful. So, for you guys that are listening, or maybe you just came in and listened this time only, if you're kind of interested, sign up, to be a member, to just, be someone who's actually identified as I listen to this podcast. And maybe not all the time. You don't have to. Nobody's asking you to do that. But maybe from time to time you turn it on and you'd like to listen to me and see what I'm yakking about that particular day. We need to have those numbers, and I really appreciate the two people that came up just yesterday and signed up. And if you all could do the same thing. It's the same thing with YouTube, subscribe and, become a member, so to speak. Same thing with iHeartRadio. Boy, you guys, please, support me with that iHeartRadio. I want to stay on that, and they make sure that you do everything and have the numbers to sustain a podcast. So I want to do that. So please sign up and be a member of my podcasts on Spreaker. And I think it filters over onto iHeartRadio. And sometimes you guys go over to iHeartRadio and just start listening to me. You just go to iHeartRadio and you go to podcasts. This is real simple. Write in my name, John Zager. JOHNZEGAR. It'll take you right to all of my podcasts, starting with the most recent and going back. Same thing's true with YouTube. Go to YouTube and just write in my name. Subscribe, John Zager, and it'll take you to every single podcast I've ever had from the most recent all the way back. Very important stuff. The blog. Gosh darn, blogs are just as important, and I sure would appreciate it if you could, go over and do the same for my blogs, which is just jzager@blogspot.com. No big deal. Anyway, alrighty, God bless everybody. Take care of one another. And I'm going to look forward to talking to y'all again real soon. Thanks. See you. Bye.